Joining the AdCom panel today. Very excited to have three esteemed AdCom directors here, and we're going to ask and answer a lot of questions about applying to schools in Latin America. So I'll give you a brief introduction to myself, then I'll have each of the panelists introduce themselves. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting, my name is Scott Edinburgh, founder of personal MBA coach, chief admissions consulting, and tutoring firm. We went to MIT for undergrad, and I went into my MBA, and we've been personal MBA coach for the last 13 years, been helping applicants around the world, many in Latin America, to get into to top schools. So Richard, I'll pass it over to you for a brief introduction.
Thank you, Scott. Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. So my name is Richard Feliciano. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment and Admissions for the full-time MBA program here at the Rotman School of Management at the University of Toronto. We're located in Toronto, Canada. So I look forward to hearing from some of your questions, and then later on potentially at the Zoom panels.
My name is Amy Mitson. I'm the co-executive director of admissions and financial aid at the Tuck School of Business at Dartmouth College. We're located in Hanover, New Hampshire. Been at Tuck for many years in a combination of student services and now admissions. Have had the pleasure to travel all over the world, recruiting students, meeting an alumni, and work with a lot of our partner organizations. And I'm happy to answer questions this evening and beyond.
Well, good evening. My name is Jaden Felix. I'm with Texas McCombs, or the University of Texas at Austin McCombs School of Business here in Austin, Texas. Not a director, but I am a senior recruiting and admissions officer. But happy to be called a director anytime.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all again for coming. Really excited for this session. Start off with a question that I know applicants would be interested in. I'm not sure whether this is something you'd be interested in sort of talking about now, or not. But as applications kind of gear up for round two, applicants gear up for round two applications, and we'll talk about round two volumes in a minute. Can you touch on any kind of applicant profile, requirements, and specifically, for folks, from this region? I know personally, because we get a lot of questions like, I have income from XYZ company, like my other, colleagues have. Does that sort of put me at a disadvantage? So Amy, I don't know if you want to start to kind of kick this one off.
Sure. So with I say round one, round two, round three, round four, whatever individual schools have, we have those rounds for a reason, is because we want to hear from you when you're ready and you have the opportunity to apply whichever round works for you. As far as your background, speaking specifically for us, and I know many of my colleagues, the greater diversity that we can have in our classrooms, the better for our faculty and for your fellow student community. And so if you're coming from a non-business background, you don't have to worry about that or make excuses for that. Your background is going to be a complement to the class in your MBA program. Specifically at Tuck, we evaluate candidates around 4 criteria: smart, accomplished, aware, and encouraging. And no matter what round you apply, you're evaluated around the same criteria. And I would just say that the unique background that you come from is something you should be proud of. If you come from a more traditional background, you should be proud of that too, because you have unique experiences there that you can add, as well as the unique place where you are from in the world. And so I have yet to see a background that does not fit in the MBA program. So have confidence as you move forward, no matter what your background is, if you're applying round two, round three, whatever you decide to do.
Great. Well, Amy, thank you so much. And kind of shifting gears a little bit, it's a short session, so we'll kind of jump around. Application volume in round two. So Jaden, I don't know if you want to talk at all to what you're seeing or what you think you might see in the upcoming round two, the January deadlines, as far as app numbers.
Yeah, happy to. So I'm excited about the opportunity to read what people have written, the interview applicants, and learn about people's journey to like this moment, right? Now, whether applications are up or down, applicants that have a demonstrated impact, results, and leadership on the job have done their research, so clear school research and a strong YMBA, those applicants are going to stand out, whether applications are up or down. Obviously, I feel like there's a lot of noise out there about the volume of applications, and I really wouldn't want people, so anyone who's attending right now, to get distracted about that volume conversation, because then you're expelling energy on conversations that really don't help you prepare your application, right? Help you get closer to a better and well-defined application, kind of like thinking about those goalposts and really trying to aim and work on that.
Great. And so I guess one other question, and this is really kind of focused on the region. Any advice, and I'll let any of you decide to kind of jump in on this one. Any advice you want to give to applicants from Latin America, when they're applying for a program abroad? It could be around perhaps demonstrating interest in the program, talking about goals, whether the goals should focus on U.S. versus internationally, or any other tips of advice that you have to know.
I can jump in. So one thing I think is always really helpful is to speak to current students in the program that you're maybe interested in. Like within the Rotman community, we have so many different regions and countries of Latin America represented. So I think, it can always really be helpful to connect with the current student, either from, your home country, hear about their perspective of, moving to a brand new country, moving to a brand new city, and a whole new kind of like school community and culture. So I think that's always a great way to get some exposure to the school you're targeting, and always try to figure out a little bit if that school is maybe a good fit for you. I think also, especially, thinking about the impact of the pandemic, a lot of schools wouldn't be able to travel normally to Latin America here in the US and Canada and Europe. So, take a look at what each school is doing. There's a lot of virtual events happening this year at a lot of schools. Be proactive, connect with admissions. Lots of schools are open to, give you maybe a little bit more feedback on your fit with their program, whether that's submitting a resume, connecting with student ambassadors. That's always, I think, a good way, especially when thinking about, how admissions this year is mainly going to be virtual. So be proactive and don't hesitate to connect with admissions teams and offices.
Great. And so another question here. This is from Umesh via YouTube. So thanks for dialing in. Around scholarship offerings, and this is really a good one to kind of give all of the clarifying details, because I know we get a lot of questions from applicants like, oh, it's not round one, there's no more money left, and I'm usually like, that's not true. So maybe we could just kind of hear once and for all from. I'd love to hear from all three of you about scholarship opportunities across the different rounds. So Amy, I don't know if you want to start to kick it off.
Sure, happy to. Really good question. And so everyone who applies to the program is evaluated for scholarship. There's not a different application for us anyway. Your application for admission is evaluated and a decision is made. And if you're admitted to the program, then everyone who's admitted is evaluated for a scholarship. And the scholarship, we have a ton of information, actually updated information on our website, because we'd recently had an increase in our scholarship budget, which is wonderful to be able to share that with you all. But we give out scholarships in every round, and we've also been able to, in past years, give scholarships to applicants who even came off the wait list in later rounds. And so we're budgeting the amount of scholarship dollars just as we're kind of budgeting the number of admissions offers that we're making each round. Of course, it is dependent on how many applications we get each round, how many admissions offers we're making. So it varies a little bit there, but know that every round there are scholarship dollars that we will award. And so, happy to provide more information on that, but I think many schools' websites are great resources.
Yeah, just to build on what Amy was talking about in terms of the scholarships, at Texas McCombs, some of the data that's available on our blog, the Texas Insider MBA blog, has specific scholarship information. Over half of our students will receive some sort of aid, ranging from $5,000 to full tuition. And similar to Amy, it really is going to be everything that you submit within your application is going to be evaluated. But also the interview. The interview is incredibly important. That's really when we get to hear directly from you about you, and in your own words. That's a little bit different than when it's on paper or maybe on video.
Great, Jaden, thanks so much. Yeah, Richard, anything else to add there? How it works up in Toronto?
Yeah, I'll just add in about Rotman. So when you apply to our program, you're automatically considered for all the scholarships that we offer. We award about $6 million every year, and typically about 60% of all of our admitted students receive some form of entrance award funding. But to the original question, we do award scholarships in all of our application rounds. But it definitely can potentially get a little bit more competitive through the rounds. I'd say if you're applying by round 2, that's still a relatively great time to apply and be considered for scholarships. Of course, applying for the last round, things tend to be a little bit more competitive. So I always do kind of recommend, try to kind of start the process as early as you can to submit the application as early as you can. But it's also important to submit the strongest application that you also can, because that's going to be more important when considering for scholarship awards and spaces in the program.
Great. And Richard, while we're with you, maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your program mission statement, or, if folks are not as familiar, with Rotman, and maybe they'll come to the, Zoom rooms afterwards to chat, what are some things that we might want to know about the school?
For sure, yeah. So, I won't run through kind of the whole mission statement at Rotman, which is kind of posted just right outside our lobby. So hopefully when the pandemic is over, people can visit the school more. But I'd say really at the foundation of Rotman is our diversity in our community, and I'd really like to describe it almost as like a family-like atmosphere. We're the largest MBA program in Canada, with about 300 students every year in our MBA program, and we're the most culturally diverse program in the country. We typically have anywhere from 40 to 60 nationalities represented in our program. So right at the heart of Rotman, I think, is an inclusive global community, one that's also very diverse on academic and professional backgrounds. We always say that learning from your classmates is always going to be at the core of your learning at Rotman. And I think also having a social impact on society, having a positive impact on society, is also at the core of our MBA program. There's lots of opportunities within Rotman to do international exchanges and broaden your perspective, or have an impact on the local community here in Toronto or somewhere in Canada, which can be a great way to broaden your perspective as well. And lastly, I'd say, the academic rigor of our program is something that we're really proud of. Having some of the best faculty in the world teach at Rotman is always, I think, a great advantage to our students and hear from global thought leaders.
I guess I'll jump in if that's
please.
If that's how we're going around the room. Thank you. Our mission at Tuck is to educate wise, decisive leaders who better the world through business, and the mission is lived out through the core values at Tuck of being personal, connected, and transformative. We have a small MBA program, typically, the 285 students in each class, give or take a few. So with that, you do have the chance to get to know absolutely everyone. We are located outside of a big city, and so nobody's really from Hanover. So everyone descends upon Hanover for their MBA and bonds really closely together, because you are consistently working in small groups, working across classes between first and second year, and just fully immersed in the community. So the uniqueness of the program is definitely some aspects being that, which is the size and the location. So thinking about that could be a unique experience from where you are coming from. Some of our alums will say, it is definitely the 2 best years of their life, and many times, so there are many students who will come to Tuck with a partner, and they'd say if they could come back and do it all over again, they would do it as a partner and not as a student, because they'd have all the network and none of the homework. So you can ask some students about that. But as a general management curriculum, core curriculum, in the first year, it broadens as you progress from the fall term to the spring term, many experiential learning opportunities, and a whole host of electives in the second year. And it's hard to know when to stop when you start talking about your MBA program, but those are the few things I'll share, and I'll pass it over to Jaden.
Great, thanks so much. Jaden, please.
Yeah, this is a really good question. I don't know if I've ever been asked what your mission statement is. So
here we go.
Thank you. Right. So at Texas McCombs, we believe business is a power of positive change across industries and functions, teams, and communities. We're a training ground for leaders, giving them the skills and the confidence to make their own unique mark where they live and where they work, with authenticity, purpose, and compassion. Now, you're going to see this reflected in this new ethos, or this, I'm not going to call it a mission statement, but It is something you may have seen on some of our materials. It's a human-centered, future-focused, right? So human-centered, future-focused. And we are located in one of the best places to live, fastest growing business and tech hubs in the US, here in Austin, Texas.
Fantastic. Well, thank you. Super helpful. And actually, you know, that will help applicants to figure out, you know, what things they should be perhaps talking about in these Zoom sessions, you know, later on today. And here's a question specifically, you know, what are any recommendations to applicants you'll be meeting in the Zoom sessions? And I think this is almost a toss-up, you know, for you, so that you get the most out of the sessions, just as the students do. So how can someone make the most of this? I like getting this question because we often coach clients with like questions to ask admissions directors, questions not to ask. So, you know, in a virtual sort of setting like this, you know, what are some broad sort of general recommendations that you might you know, give here? Jaden, I don't know, since you're with you, if you want to get started with this one.
I had a feeling you're going to start with me. Okay.
You can pass.
No. I wouldn't want to do that. Okay. So a recommendation would be, you know, first tell us a little bit about your background. I think that'll help us understand if you're an enhancer, if you're pivoting, maybe you're having more of an entrepreneurial focus. I think that'll give us a sense about how you'll be entering in and the opportunities that are going to exist within any one of our programs.
Great, thank you. Richard, anything to add?
I love this question. I feel one good piece of advice to take into, especially getting a little bit more personal time with someone from an admissions team, is try to ask questions that can kind of bring you the most value. So what I mean is, like, don't just maybe ask us to repeat certain things that you can find on our website in a few seconds. So like, what are your admission requirements? Of course, that's something that can differ from each school, but, you know, I think that's always something, you know, you can always kind of pull up on the website very quickly. So I think it's always try to make the questions as substantive as possible, whether it's based on your profile or some of the more specific questions that you're hoping to get out of, like, the MBA experience, for example.
I support all of that, as well as for yourself. When you're in that panel discussion or in that the Zoom room discussion, asking questions that are really meaningful to you, don't hesitate. You can ask a personal question. You know, I don't have your resume there to review, so I'm not going to go super into your profile. But if you have a personal question about which recommender to choose, or how many times you've taken the GMAT, or these questions, don't hesitate to ask them, because others will have those same questions. And as you go through these sessions, just, you know, take the notes. Like, if there are words that pop out of, you know, an admissions officer's mouth that you're like, I don't know what that is, but I want to know what that is. So, like, researching some of the buzzwords, because we all will say, are this in this program or this. Take notes for those things. It's so readily available on our website. You can always do, like, let yourself freely listen, share conversation, take some notes. You can go back and do research later and come back with the question. So it's not going to be your only chance to connect with us, to ask questions and learn.
Fantastic point. Thanks, Amy. Yeah, Jay.
One last thing would be, you know, we know that people come into an experience like this with a variety of, either they've done a lot of research or they haven't done any, or it's a completely blank slate. You know, one of the things I talked about our program, and I think was reflective about all of the programs, is being authentic. So if you haven't done any research, I think it's okay to say that, you know, I'm just starting the research process, so blank, you know, I think that's fine. And at least it sets some expectations for us about where you're at in the journey. And then our answers can help you with that, like, kind of meet you where you're at.
Great. Well, Amy, we're going to go back to you for this question. This is specifically about the, you know, policy of setting, you know, 2 or more, you know, test scores and having talk and consider the highest scores of each section. You know, how does this work? And maybe I'll rephrase it for this applicant, in case the applicant's thinking of, like, you know, do you really get the best of both? You know, does it, like, sort of help you? Maybe you can talk a little bit more about that policy.
Sure. So not unusual that we'll see, you know, applicants report more than one test score. In that, I can't change a total score. Like, if your total score on one test is 710, your total score on another test is 680, but you have higher verbal and quant on the test, I can't mix those up and make a new total score for you. I do have full access then, though, to see where you improved on one test or where, however it worked out. I get to see full information, and that is the most important part. So I appreciate it when people are able to share the scores, even if you take the test a second time and the score doesn't go up as much as you would have liked it to. It's great for me to see what you have been trying to do. That effort is something that I love to see and fully respect. And so even if the score goes down, or like, oh gosh, I wanted the verbal to go up, but that went down and the quant went up, whatever the case may be, I can't create a new official score, but I can have the benefit of seeing where you landed and bringing it all together. And just like it shows a lot of fortitude to be able to take those tests more than one time. And so just share all the information and, go from there. But we can't, like, what do you say? I can't like super score it and create a new score. That's not a real thing for us anyway. So I see them individually and appreciate all that info you want to share.
Well, that's very helpful context. So thank you, Amy, for that. And so here's a question. Richard, maybe I'll start with you here. Do we think Latin American students should really want to work in the U.S. or Canada after graduation, or take full potential of the program and kind of realize full potential? Does that matter to you? I mean, I think I know what the answer is, but it's it's probably helpful for applicants to kind of hear, one, like, should you actually work in the market? Yeah. And it doesn't matter what you write about in your goals as far as what you want to do after school, where you want to work.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, for us in admissions, it doesn't matter if you want to stay in Canada or go back to your home country after the program. In general, like, most of our Latin American students do stay in Toronto or Canada for at least a couple of years after the program, just because in Canada, as an international student, when you complete the MBA, you can get a 3-year work permit, which doesn't require like employer sponsorship or actually even having a job offer. So we've had international students launch their own business after the MBA, or just really grow their career, here in Toronto or somewhere in Canada for a few years, and maybe go back, or, even stay in Canada long term. So I'd say it's always up to you. I mean, we've also had alumni go back straight home after the program and still be very successful, and I think still find a lot of fulfillment in that experience. But with our alumni, most of them do tend to stay in Toronto or somewhere in Canada for at least a few years.
Okay. Anything to add, Amy or Jaden, to that from your perspective? Okay. So let's see. We have a couple more minutes, so we'll probably go into closing at this point. So love to hear, actually, probably from each of the three of you, maybe 30-40 seconds each, which I realize isn't actually fair. Any kind of closing remarks and recommendations as we move on. And just as a reminder to everybody, we'll be doing Zoom rooms afterwards, so check that. And also, a personal MBA coach, so I'll be giving a talk on top 10 pitfalls to avoid that will come up after this, and it'll also be on YouTube, so you can see it later on as well. So Jaden, if you start off with any kind of closing words or recommendations. We only touched on a few things, so I'm sure you have a lot of things to share.
Yeah. One of the first things I would say, kind of relates to the last question, is Texas McCombs MBA program is going through STEM designation. So more information will be posted about that in the coming weeks. But in addition, I would say we all have virtual events on the horizon. And in the next week or two, we have several industry-focused webinars, consulting, tech industry, brand and product management, entrepreneurship, clean tech at McCombs. We also have some 2 mock classes, a strategic branding and a financial statement analysis mock class. And then next week, we're doing a Discover McCombs with student affairs and career management. So that question, Sebastian, that you asked, you can ask a career management person, like one-on-one. Well, one in some new of your closest, or a few of your closest friends you can ask about that. And then lastly, virtual building tours led by a student. So hopefully you can join us.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Jaden. Amy, any closing words or recommendations from you?
Sure. I'll just say, zooming out a little bit, just thinking about the bigger picture of this process that you're going through. It is a group process. There are a lot of people that are going through this process. While a group process, you're allowed to go through it as an individual. So no matter what people are saying on blogs or different chats or you're hearing about, it is okay to go after the MBA for the exact reason that you want and tell us what that is, even if it's very different from somebody else. So don't hesitate to be an individual, even though I realize this is a group process and a lot of people weigh in online with what you're doing and you ask for lots of advice, but you can also use your intuition to help guide you forward with facts and information from us along the way.
I like that one. I like that one a lot. Richard, any last words for you?
Yeah, I would say, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. You're maybe it's your first step in the process and it's a step in the right direction, learning more from schools. So keep asking these questions, keep connecting with the schools that you're interested in and interested in getting to know more. And especially now within this virtual environment, we will also be hosting a lot of virtual sample classes over the next month. We have our annual open house event, which will be entirely virtual on November 21st, and anyone can sign up for that on our website right now. So I encourage you all to take a look at those events because it'll be a great way to learn about Rotman a little bit more. Great.
Well, Amy, Richard, Jaden, thank you so much for your help tonight. It was a fantastic session. Really appreciate it. Thank you everyone for joining in. Please jump into the Zoom rooms. And Scott with Personal MBA Coach, feel free to reach out if you'd like any help with the applications, and hope to see everybody soon. Stay safe, stay well, and best of luck.
Thank you.